woman had just signed her marriage certificate when the clerk ripped off his mask and said, "Game over, Dominic." Arya froze. The clerk was her own brother. Then the security guard removed his disguise. Her father. And the man standing among the fake newlyweds? Her childhood best friend. They had all been acting for one reason: to watch Arya believe she was finally marrying the man she had loved for 9 years. Then Dominic smiled and delivered the real surprise. "I'm marrying your stepsister in 3 days." Everyone expected Arya to scream, to cry, to beg him not to leave. Instead, she looked directly into Dominic's eyes and said 4 words. "Fine. I agree to it." The room erupted in laughter. Dominic thought she had finally broken. He had no idea she had just made the most dangerous phone call of her life. For 9 years, Arya had sacrificed everything for Dominic. When his enemies came after him, she had stood between them and him, taking a blow that left 7 stitches in her head. When his business dinners went wrong, she stayed beside him. When everyone else disappeared, Arya remained. She thought that was love. Apparently, Dominic thought it was something else. A backup plan. Vivian, Arya's stepsister, walked over with trembling lips and tears in her eyes. Then something that made Arya's entire body go cold. "For 8 of those 9 years, Dominic and I were together." Arya stared at her. Her father knew. Her brother knew. Marco knew. Everyone knew. Everyone except her. Dominic didn't even look ashamed. "Vivian and I are getting married in 3 days," he said. "Behave yourself. After we divorce, I'll still marry you." Arya almost laughed. He was offering her the position of second choice as though it were a gift. She lowered her eyes. "Fine." But that night, she opened a private chat she hadn't touched in a year. One message remained at the bottom. "If you ever want a new husband, call me. I'm ready to step in." The sender was a man whose name carried more fear than respect. Don Salvatore, the kingpin of the 5 families, a man Dominic's family would never dare challenge. Arya typed, "I want you now. 3 days. City Hall." The reply came almost instantly. Understood. The next morning, Arya began packing her belongings. Then Vivian saw the wedding gown hanging in the closet. It was worth $12 million. Dominic had bought it for Arya and promised she would wear it on their wedding day. Vivian smiled. "I wish I could wear that." Arya refused. Enzo ordered her to hand it over. She refused again. Then Dominic walked in. He grabbed the gown and tore it straight down the middle. The sound was almost louder than a gunshot. Arya stared at the ruined dress. She expected pain. Instead, she felt nothing. Dominic shrugged. "I paid for it. I decide what happens to it." Then Vivian asked for Arya's waterfront estate. Dominic agreed immediately. "Transfer it to Vivian." Arya's phone vibrated. Another message from Salvatore. "Every Salvatore estate now belongs to you. Choose whichever one you want for our wedding home." Arya looked at the message, then at Dominic. "You're making a mistake," he said. "No," Arya replied. "You are." Dominic laughed. "For 9 years, your entire world revolved around me. Who else could you possibly marry?" Arya finally looked him straight in the eyes. "Someone else." "Who?" She gave him the name. "Salvatore." The laughter stopped. Even Vivian went silent. Dominic stared at her. Then he laughed again. You actually expect me to believe Don Salvatore would marry you? Arya said nothing. She didn't need to. 3 days later, she would walk into City Hall with one goal. Not to stop Dominic's wedding, not to win him back, but to marry the man who had been waiting for her to finally choose herself. And Dominic was about to discover the worst part. He hadn't lost Arya to another man. He had lost her to the version of herself he had spent 9 years destroying. The doors of City Hall opened, and Arya walked in on a broken ankle. Dominic saw her first. You actually came? He stood beside Vivian, dressed for their wedding. Arya ignored him and limped to the registry desk. I'm here to get married too. Dominic raised his hand. Before it landed, someone caught his wrist. A deep voice came from behind Arya. Hello, I'm here to marry Mrs. Arya Cross. Dominic turned. His face went pale. Don Salvatore stood there. The City Hall manager recognized him and immediately cleared the room. For years, Dominic believed Arya would always come back. Now he watched the most powerful man in the city take her hand. You will never raise your hand to her again, Salvatore said. Arya signed the papers. This time, they were real. But the greatest reward wasn't Dominic's humiliation. It was what happened after. Salvatore never treated Arya like a possession. He gave her space, supported her work, and listened when she spoke. When she feared happiness might disappear, he didn't tell her to stop being afraid. 3 years later, Arya became pregnant. I've only just learned to believe this is real. Now I'm terrified I'll lose it. Salvatore held her. You don't have to be afraid alone. Then, one afternoon, everything she feared happened. A call came. Salvatore was supposedly dead after a gang conflict. Arya stood frozen, one hand over her stomach. For 3 days, she waited. Then her father, Enzo, and Vivian appeared at the gates, pretending to care. Arya remembered the cellar, the fake marriage, the torn dress, and years of betrayal. You stopped being my family the day you chose her over me. She closed the door. After midnight, the front door opened. Arya froze. Salvatore walked inside. Alive. Dust covered his coat. Blood marked his sleeve. He crossed the room, dropped to one knee, and pressed his face against her stomach. I'm sorry. I made you carry this fear alone. Arya sank beside him, crying. He was real. He had come home. And she finally understood the truth. Years passed. Arya built her own foundation and became a powerful businesswoman. Their daughter, Elena, grew up knowing what a safe home felt like. Then, one rainy afternoon, Arya saw Vivian sweeping leaves beside the road. Vivian looked older and broken. Can you ever forgive me? Arya looked at her. Forgiveness isn't something you receive just because you regret what you did. She walked away. Not with hatred, with peace. That evening, Arya returned to the cliffside estate. Salvatore waited at the door. He opened his arms. She stepped into them. Long day? A little. He kissed her forehead. Then come home. And Arya finally understood something. She had spent 9 years believing love meant enduring anything so someone would choose her. It didn't. Real love didn't make her smaller. It didn't make her compete. It didn't keep her waiting for permission to matter. Real love gave her room to become herself. That was the real ending. Not that Dominic lost her, not that Salvatore won her. Arya finally stopped measuring her worth by who stayed. If you've ever had to rebuild yourself after betrayal, this channel is for you. Not because every story ends with revenge, but because sometimes the most powerful ending is learning to choose yourself again. Subscribe and join a community that believes your worst chapter doesn't have to define your whole story. And tell me, if you were Arya, would you forgive your family? Or would walking away forever be the real victory?